The Spokane City Council put the brakes on a plan to bring a self-driving bus to Riverfront Park, citing a whole list of concerns.
Not a lot of sunshine in this week's forecast, but we should see some milder temperatures.
And the saga over $30 car tab fees continues. Washington AG Bob Ferguson just filed a motion to keep I-976. Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Hanrahan. We start with some breaking news tonight. Washington's Attorney General filed an emergency motion to reverse an injunction against Initiative 976. That initiative passed by voters last month would cap car tab fees at $30, but last week a judge granted a temporary injunction citing substantial concerns that the initiative's description on the ballot was misleading. That could have prevented the initiative from taking effect on December 5th. However, a judge will now consider Ferguson's argument to determine if the injunction will be lifted. But tonight we talked with initiative sponsor Tim Eyman, who continues to question Ferguson's motives. He believes Ferguson underrepresented taxpayers in Superior Court and presented a weak case, and he thinks Ferguson is trying to bring that same weak argument, he says, to the Supreme Court. Remember these? They are the self-driving buses that run on electricity, and it looked like Spokane was set to get a couple as an attraction in Riverfront Park. But in a surprise move tonight, the council voted against the project. Our political reporter, Casey Decker, was at tonight's meeting. And Casey, why did it fail?
Well, for a number of reasons, Mark. The vote today would have put about $90 grand toward the project. It needed to get 5 of 7 council members' approval in order to succeed. It only got 4. But interestingly, the reservations weren't really about the money.
Ollie, it's the name of these innovative buses. They use a sort of new radar technique to drive without anyone behind the wheel. The company behind the project offered up pilot programs to cities around the region. Spokane asked to be considered, and they were picked. Now, the bus is not designed to be effective public transit. It can't even go on the road since it maxes out at 25 miles per hour right now. Instead, a pair of buses would have served as basically an attraction in Riverfront Park, taking people from one side to the other. It would be a pilot program running from December to next March. But a litany of concerns killed the project, at least for this year.
Every question I asked seemed to be one more thing, no.
Council members Lori Kinnear, Candace Mumm, and Mike Fagan all voted against it. For Fagan, he was still unsure about safety and liability.
Because I'm not too awful comfortable with autonomous automobiles quite yet.
Kinnear's primary concern was accessibility. She says Ollie currently doesn't have a wheelchair ramp.
If you're going to invite something into our park, it has to be accessible to everybody.
Other things seemed odd too. For instance, even though the thing is autonomous, a staffer still needs to man it at all times to assure safety. And even stranger, although the pilot would have been during winter in Spokane, Ollie isn't particularly good in winter weather.
No, it does not have any kind of snow capability.
Well, the rejection of Ollie was really something of a surprise tonight. First of all, it's pretty rare for the council to reject ordinances it votes on in the first place. Now, outgoing council president Ben Stuckert said he was shocked by the outcome tonight, and he hopes the next council can work with the company to maybe make something work in the future. We reached out to that company late tonight. We haven't heard back yet. Mark?
All right, Casey, thank you very much. To weather now, it is the first week of December, and the weather is expected to warm up into the 40s. Meteorologist Michelle Boss standing by in the Weather Center with the first look at your forecast. Michelle?
Yeah, weather certainly wasn't typical for November, and it looks like December is going to be a little different as well. Well, we're looking at warmer temperatures to move in, but not a lot of sunshine. We do have some areas of fog out there right now. 2.5 mile visibility in Moses Lake. Spokane doing pretty good right now, but if you're traveling west on I-90 early tomorrow morning, may encounter some reduced visibilities there. Walla Walla also has some freezing fog, but otherwise, if you're not seeing the fog, we have otherwise mostly cloudy skies across eastern Washington and in parts of North Idaho. We are seeing a little bit of flurry activity starting to develop across north central Washington, and that's going to continue to push off to the east and southeast. Could see a few flurries here in the Spokane and Coeur d'Alene area, but I think the bulk of that's going to be up to our north and across the northern panhandle. Temperatures actually came up a couple degrees in the last couple of hours in Spokane. We're sitting at 29 degrees, right at freezing in Coeur d'Alene with that blanket of clouds. Temperatures aren't going to be as cold as they have been over the Thanksgiving holiday weekend. Just look at the next 12 hours and you can see plenty of clouds overnight and plenty of clouds tomorrow morning, but temperatures will still warm up above average, upper 30s tomorrow. Temperatures reaching about 40 degrees on Wednesday and upper 30s on Thursday.
So this action is really targeted against the management, the Building and Engineering Department of Seattle Children's, about a systemic cover-up that's existed now for almost 19 years.
A lawsuit filed on behalf of 4 former patients of Seattle Children's Hospital was filed against the hospital's administration today. That suit states the patients developed medical complications from Aspergillus mold infections while in the hospital's care. 3 of them died because of it. The complaint alleges the hospital failed to tell the patients or their parents about the mold inside the ventilation system. $2,000, that's what Spokane City leaders want landlords to pay to tenants in relocation fees. It's one of many tenant protection improvements the City Council will consider in next week's meeting. The improvements come in the form of 2 ordinances. One would establish a rental relocation assistance program, and the other would require landlords to cite specific cause for eviction. Since both of the Spokane proposals are emergency ordinances, they require 5 yes votes to pass. If approved, they will go into effect next Monday night.
Wildfire poses a clear and present danger to health of Washington's people, our environment, our economy, and our firefighters.
There might be a new tax coming in the new year. The state's land commissioner wants extra funding to help fight and prevent wildfires. Drew Mickelson with our Seattle sister station looks at how much it would cost, what it would pay for, and why it's not a done deal.
The state's Department of Natural Resources uses helicopters that flew in the Vietnam War. The state says it is time for an upgrade in the skies and on the forest floor below, and it'll cost every household about $1 more a month.
Because Washington State has a wildfire crisis. This crisis endangers all of us.
After 5 years of record-sized wildfires, loss of human life and property, State Public Lands Commissioner Hillary Franz says it's time for a new tax.
Wildfire poses a clear and present danger to health of Washington's people, our environment, our economy, and our firefighters.
Franz is proposing a surcharge on property and car insurance policies that she says would cost the average household $1 a month. Blackhawks would help modernize the state's firefighting fleet. DNR currently refurbishes retired Vietnam War-era Huey helicopters. More than 40 full-time firefighters would be added to the state's force, and crews would clear dead and dying trees, making for what firefighters consider healthier forests, especially near communities.
We're always going to have fires on our landscape, but the intensity of that fire is really what we can control.
The tax has been proposed before, and it died, thanks in part to opposition from insurance lobbyists, who again will argue the state should rely on its surplus, not insurance policyholders, especially at a time when there's not much appetite for new taxes.
One week the local government says we're going to overturn the car tab initiative, and the next week Olympia says Merry Christmas, we're going to raise your insurance costs.
So the money we're asking for up front will help reduce the money that we're paying on the back end and actually help protect our communities, the health and the economy and the environment. And I believe it's a strong case that we can make.
Earlier this year, Commissioner Franz got a record amount of money for fighting wildfires, $50 million from the state in the current budget cycle. She is looking for a permanent funding solution because she says this problem will not expire when that budget funding does. In Tumwater, Drew Mickelson, KREM 2 News.
The Seahawks played on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago, and it was an epic affair, so it's only right that tonight's Monday Night Football contest also came right down to the wire. Our Brenna Green joins us live in studio to break down a back-and-forth fourth quarter. Brenna.
Mark, if you tuned in to the end of the third quarter, you wouldn't have thought this Seahawks game would be decided by a touchdown. So that is exactly where we're going to start off. 5 seconds left in the third, and Russell Wilson drops a nice 69-yard bomb to David Moore. The Seahawks go up 27-17 going into the fourth. And on the first play of the fourth, whoopsies, that's a Seattle interception. They're in business to go up by 17, and that's exactly what happens a minute and a half later. Little screen action here to Rashad Penny, 35-17 Hawks. Kirk Cousins answers back, though, less than a minute later. Not that it was hard for him, as Laquan Treadwell was wide open. 34-24 Vikings, and we have some life in this game. 3 minutes later, and DK Metcalf gets the first down, but, you know, we don't normally show first downs on highlights. We're showing this because It's a fumble. Cousins capitalizes and connects with Kyle Rudolph, but the Vikings miss the PAT, so it's 34-30. We had to 2:30 left on 4th and 3. Seahawks hold the Vikings. The Hawks would score a field goal off of this turnover on downs, and that is that. Seahawks win 37-30 to advance to 10-2, and here's the most important thing: sit on top of the NFC West standings.
We're in control, and that's a great thing. You know, we like having that control and just being able to try to continue to win football games. And we don't want to get bored. Consistency, just keep winning, keep finding a way.
Just couldn't be more excited to have that kind of win and to put us at 10 wins. It's a nice spot for this time. We kick it into the fourth quarter, and now it's finish time. And now we got to do our job. We haven't really done anything yet, but the finish is there for us. And with 4 games left, we got to make some noise and see if we can finish this thing off right.
Even though he did have a pick six, it was a good night for Russell Wilson, going 21 of 31 for 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. But it wasn't just him out there today. An incredibly balanced day for running backs Chris Carson and Rashad Penny. They had 1 touchdown apiece. Carson had 102 yards on 23 carries, averaging 4.4 yards per attempt, and Penny had 74 yards on 15 carries, averaging 4.9 yards per attempt. If Russell can play well and have those two in the backfield producing, watch out, NFL. And finally, after David Moore's touchdown, the Seahawks once again turned into a boy band. This time pulling out some new addition. Sweet moves here, really. Wouldn't be a Seahawks game without a viral celebration. Seattle plays at the Rams this Sunday on Sunday Night Football. As I said earlier, they move into the top spot in the NFC West with only 4 games to go in the regular season.
Good position to be in. Also, these last few Seahawks games have been stressful, right down to the wire.
Yeah.
My goodness.
There may be a few Seahawks fans that have had a few years taken off their lives, but it'd all be worth it if they win a Super Bowl, right?
That's a solid point. Hopefully they keep winning.
Right.
Thank you, Brenna. All right, still ahead tonight. Do you think Washington should keep its status as a sanctuary state? We want to hear from you, so get out your phone and get ready to vote. Head to KREM.com/vote or scroll to the Vote Now section in the KREM 2 app. We'll go over the results when we come back.